I've got Carmen on the podcast today to talk about all things business. Carmen is a masterful delegator, and her and her business partner, Maureen, run a virtual assistant company, Global Teams, which has built a team of 90 plus superstars in both the Philippines and now South Africa, and is helping other businesses build their own teams. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Maureen. Sorry, Maureen, that's your business partner's name.
Oh, that's
Carmen.
it.
I just keep getting the names all over the place. So great to meet you both and talk to you both. But today we're focused on you, Carmen. Thanks for coming on.
Absolute pleasure, Luke.
I was bound to make that error, but hey, this is what happens in business. So we have to be, like you said earlier, agile and adapt, and admit the mistakes that we have to make and move on, keep going.
Throw perfection out the window.
Absolutely, it's definitely not this podcast. So, Carmen, take us back to the moment when you were a single mum with a business under 6 months old. What was the breaking point that made you hire your first VA, and what changed in that first 30 days?
Yeah, so great question, Luke. I'll take you a little bit of a step back. So I walked into work one day and I just felt something in my bones. I called up my director, who was on leave that day, poor woman, and I said to her, I've decided I'm going to leave and I've got everything ready to go. Can today be my last day? And she agreed, and I walked out at lunchtime. And everyone was saying to me, Carmen, I didn't know that you were leaving. And I said, no, neither did I. Single parent, 2 kids, mortgage. Everyone thought I'd gone batshit crazy to start a business. I didn't even know the difference between sales and marketing, Luke. So I quickly learned that clients weren't going to come running to me. I had to do this thing called marketing. And I decided LinkedIn was going to be my place to play. So I learned how to do LinkedIn marketing. I did it full out for 2 weeks myself. And then I'm like, actually, I need someone to do the doing on LinkedIn so I can do the talking. And so then I hired my first virtual assistant, Noe.
Fantastic. So in terms of the virtual assistant, offshoring gets sold like a cheat code. Not build an offshore team yet, and what are the 3 prerequisites to make it work?
Yeah, so I am a big believer that as a small business owner, you can't hand a virtual assistant your strategy. So I didn't say to Noe, here you go, make me famous on LinkedIn and get me clients. You can't do that. I learned enough about LinkedIn. I learned enough about how to do the doing on LinkedIn so that I could then say, hey, Noe, could you follow this process for me? Sure, we can tweak and refine it and you can bring me your ideas, but I had it 90% done and dusted, and she followed that process to a T, which got me opportunities to have chats. And so the downfall I see people to do is that then they don't own their strategy enough. They don't learn enough about what they need to delegate. And then sometimes when they do learn it, they're not willing to delegate, not willing to feel that fear, that uncertainty, and not willing to learn that skill. Because it's a bit like a muscle. You can learn it. I wasn't good at it from the start, but I knew that there was no other way.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to put your get in there and learn along the path, and obviously get your experts along the way, which I always say, whether it's investing, whether it's in business as well. You did mention earlier about batshit crazy. Do you feel like as an entrepreneur you need that personality trait?
Oh, I think we've all got a bit of it in us. Don't you agree, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. Entrepreneurs or just the general public?
Oh, entrepreneurs. That's why I love hanging around entrepreneurs, because we're all a little bit a different flavor of crazy. We're all a bit different. But we're whenever I meet an entrepreneur, on a dating platform, I'm like, oh, you've got a high risk appetite. And I'm like, it just makes them more attractive to me.
I love this. Love your energy as well. It's super exciting to, I guess, not only bring the podcast as well, but just to really see the exuberance of energy through, and I'm sure that delivers forward into your business and with the VAs that you use and help other businesses with.
Yeah. I think you got to have fun with it, don't you?
That's exactly right. So, Carmen, what were the most painful mistakes that you've made managing an offshore team early on, hiring, onboarding, culture, communications, time zones, expectations, that is all there.
So many things that can go
Give us
wrong
the
with.
top three and
So,
how it was, you were able to
yeah.
prevent them, the
So the
issues.
mistake that I made with the lovely Noe that I mentioned was I dipped my toe in the water and I said, "Oh, Noe, could you just work for me part time?" Because I'm like, this is my first virtual assistant. I'm living off my savings. Like shit was getting real. So then she was working for me part time, and I loved her. It's fantastic. I was getting opportunities, ideal. And then I turned to her and I said, "Oh, could you work for me full time now?" And she's like, "No, Carmen, I've got other commitments." And so when I speak with business owners, we have a full-time and a part-time option, but it's like, what is the best one for you? You can't just guarantee that in 3-6 months time, when you're ready, they're going to be available to work for you. And so it's about working out what you need now and what you need in like the next few months. And so we do that. The other thing I see people do wrong all the time is that they want someone who's out there and excitable and, has all these ideas like us crazy business owners do, because we're attracted to people like ourselves. But most business owners, the first virtual assistant they need is a detail-oriented doer, and they're not always the life of the party. And so it's about scoping it out really, really well. And there's a bit of a science and an art form to that. So I like working with people on that. And then once they got the virtual assistant, oh my goodness, the number of business owners who are like, "I've got my virtual assistant and it's not going that well." I'm like, are you talking to them? Like, I know it sounds really rudimentary, but they're like, "Oh, actually, no, I haven't met with them in face to face for a month." And I'm like, maybe you could start there. And obviously there's more nuances to it. There's more things to make the magic work. But like, you need to invest in that relationship. You need to actually talk to your virtual assistant.
Yeah, that I guess it's a common thing. It's kind of virtual assistant there in the background rather than they actually are part of the team, and I think that's vitally important for business owners to realize when they are doing, getting the virtual assistants on board with them. Carmen, you're known for getting others to execute. What's your delegation system? How do you brief the tasks so they get them done without you redoing them?
Yeah.
Delegate
Great,
effectively.
great question, Luke. And I could talk about this underwater for a week, but I've chosen two things to talk to you and your listeners to today. So one problem I hear from business owners all the time, and this is when you're starting with a new virtual assistant and they're a bit too scared to tell you you're not making sense yet. And so they say, "I spoke with my virtual assistant, I told them to do X, Y, Z, and then a week later I got something back and it wasn't what I wanted. And it's just a complete waste of time." And so what I say to people who are just starting out, like my team now are not shy about telling me I'm not making sense. But at the start, I would say, "Hey, Luke, we're going to do this, this, and this." And then, you're nodding and happily, I think you're understanding me. But before we finish the meeting, I say, "Luke, from what I've shared, what's your understandings of the next steps?" And so then I can just check that you've got that. So they're the words. And then as the relationship grows, I will teach the virtual assistant. I'll say, "Hey, Luke, a really good question to ask me is, what's the most important thing from what you've just said?" And so you can teach a virtual assistant to ask you really good questions. My team are challenging me all the time now. I don't need to ask these what are the next steps, because they're just like, "Carmen, this doesn't make sense. What about this? I've got a question about this." But it's like when that relationship's growing, because let's face it, you're the boss and you're a bit scary, even if you don't feel scary. So that's the first one. So the second thing is we don't have many rules in our business, but we do have something called the 2-message rule. And I use this all the time with my team. So I might message, just say my team member, Tin, "Hey, Tin, could you do this?" And she will message me back with a quick question. And then I'll answer her. And then she got another question. And then Tin and I both go, "Ooh, we better jump on a call now." So if we've both messaged each other 2 times, like Tin and I will sometimes jump on a 2-minute call. Doesn't have to be 2 hours. Sometimes it is 2 hours, but it's often like 2 minutes just to clarify. And so if you're messaging each other back and forth, works on the dating apps as well. If you're messaging each other back and forth, just jump on a quick call. You'll work out pretty quickly, your virtual assistant will get certainty about what they need to do. So it's the two things is, from what I've shared, what's your understandings of the next step, and the 2-message rule.
What are you seeing, Carmen, at the moment within business and the environment around business? I guess a little bit of trying times around right now on the back of some of the government legislation that's going to be brought in potentially. What's the flavour? What's the environment like? What are people saying out there in business?
Yeah, I don't know. I try to ignore it all, Luke.
Yeah.
I like to try and live under a rock as much as I can and control what I can control.
But be aware of it? Is that what you're saying? Be aware of it, but not
what
just
the
like let it
proposals
consume
are.
you, right?
Yeah, I know what the proposals are, but
Yeah.
like if I just sit around and going, oh well, we've had a drop in leads, and it's because of the new proposals and whatever, like it's not helpful. But if I go, oh, we've had a drop in leads, what can we new and exciting can we do in the marketing space?
Ooh, yes.
And so like my marketing team just last week have like implemented like 2 new things, and they're going hard. And so it might not completely mitigate against, how people are feeling at the moment. But I tell you what, people are going to hear about us. Some people come to us now, and some people come to us when they're feeling better in 3 months. And so that's my approach, is just go, what can I can
I love
control,
it.
coming up with new marketing ideas and like going hard.
Yeah, and I think the energy, it's a big thing. And, hopefully people to get to see some of the video content as well as the podcast, the full podcast. But, seeing your energy around it, that has a massive impact. And I know that being in business, that, you've got a good energy with clients, they're coming on board to do deals.
Yeah.
So that's what's super important.
Yeah, side point, Luke. People say that time is money. And given that I support people with virtual assistants to save their time, I should also probably be saying that time is money. But I disagree. Energy is money. Because we've all had those days where we've had lots of time and not done anything with it. And so I think, as business owners, it's up to us to control who we're around to manage our energy, and also get rid of those shitty tasks that you don't want to do that are draining your energy. Like get someone else to do them, potentially virtual assistant. So yeah, I think energy is money.
That's, for me, the quote of the year. So I'm so glad that I brought it up about 3 or 4 times for you to come out with that gold towards the end of this podcast. But that's going definitely in the show reels on social media for sure. Maybe you can leave us with some insight around a bit of a plan in terms of what businesses could do over the next 90 days. But if you're advising a service-based business owner to lift their revenue in that next 90 days, what are the top 3 moves that you'd make? And what would you want them to stop doing immediately?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I think it depends on where that business is in their business cycle. So people often come to us with different problems. So we've got the newbie business when I first got Noe, which was like, we need to do some marketing and we just need to get some leads in. And then we've got people who've got sales teams, but their sales teams are just super busy and they're doing admin that they hate, and they need someone to help the sales team. Yeah. And this is probably the most common one I see when the established businesses come. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, Luke, but when you're like, okay, so people are coming to us, we're getting plenty of leads, but our operations are pumped. Like my team are taking work home, my team are overwhelmed. Like you've got a great team in Australia, and the salesperson or the business owner, if they're making the sales, is too scared to make sales because you're like, how on earth are we going to deliver in operations land?
Yeah.
And so when I see that problem, that's when you can get admin support staff, those detail oriented doers I spoke about before, they can help your operations team lift the load off them so they can go and work in their zone of genius and actually expand your operational capacity. And so so it depends on where you're at in your business cycle, but that's what I'm seeing more and more, because business owners are coming to me saying, I've tried to hire people in Australia, Carmen, and I can't find them and I can't retain them, and I want to make sure I keep my existing team happy. And so they get admin support staff to help the operations and ease that burden.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where sales sometimes pulls back, when they don't have an operation team that's functioning properly. And it's like, well, if I make a sale, we're gonna be terrible in business with them, with the
Yeah.
client. So that's really important. Carmen, final question. Away from financial success, what kind of like a legacy that you want to leave for people out there? What's something for you in terms of a legacy?
I don't know, legacy's a big word, but what motivates me personally is learning. I love
Mm,
learning. I love doing new things. I don't know if that's a legacy. I don't know if, but I think if you can just do what you enjoy, some people love teaching, some people love learning, some people love lying on their hammocks. I love that too. But like if you can do what you love, like then you can, retain that energy and have that impact in the world that you want to have.
that's what I thought you were going to say about the energy and impacting the world that way. So it's kind of interesting that you got there and like got to where I thought you might go in the end. But it was really good reflection to say. I guess the learning aspect is that super important for all of us. The
Mm.
world's changing on a constant basis, and we've got things like AI coming up, right? So
Yeah.
this is where we're all got to think about what we need to do moving forward and learn some of these different platforms and ideas and what we need to do as business owners. But I guess that energy, if we can like share that energy with other people and not be down in the dumps and really live our full life. I
Yeah.
think that's where it's really important, and it's really good that you mentioned that a couple of times. So I thank you so much for coming on the podcast and having the introduction from your business partner Maureen, and it's great to share your energy with the world. So we'll get it out there to as many people as possible. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Luke.